Samantha Rodriguez had always known her stepmother Victoria was manipulative, but she never imagined the depths of her stepmother's greed until 3 months after her father's funeral. Standing in the probate lawyer's office, Samantha stared at documents that made her blood run cold, papers claiming she had voluntarily relinquished her inheritance to Victoria. "I never signed these," Samantha said, her voice barely above a whisper as she examined the forged signature. "This isn't my handwriting." Victoria sat across the mahogany table, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her designer purse, a satisfied smile playing at her lips. "Oh, sweetheart, you were so emotional after your father's passing. You probably don't remember our conversation at Thanksgiving dinner where you said you didn't want the burden of managing his estate." The lawyer, Mr. Peterson, looked uncomfortable as he shuffled through more papers. "Mrs. Rodriguez, we also have audio recordings where you apparently discussed transferring the inheritance. Your stepmother provided them as evidence of your wishes." Samantha's heart pounded. She was a forensic accountant for the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, and she knew fraud when she saw it. But this was personal, and Victoria had played her cards perfectly. Her father had been worth over $2 million, including the family ranch in Texas where Samantha had grown up. "I need copies of everything," Samantha said, her professional training kicking in. "The audio recordings, the documents, all of it." Victoria's smile widened. "Of course, dear. I want you to be completely comfortable with your decision. After all, you're still young, only 28. You have your whole career ahead of you. I'm already 62, and managing your father's estate is something I can handle in my retirement." That night, Samantha sat in her apartment, listening to the audio recordings Victoria had submitted. Her stepmother had been clever. She'd edited conversations from their weekly dinners, splicing together sentences to make it sound like Samantha was agreeing to give up her inheritance. But Victoria had made one crucial mistake. As a forensic accountant, Samantha had access to some of the most sophisticated audio analysis software in the country. Within hours, she'd identified the editing points, the background noise inconsistencies, and the telltale signs of digital manipulation. Victoria's evidence was completely fabricated, but Samantha didn't stop there. She began investigating Victoria's finances, using her professional resources to dig deeper than any civilian could. What she found was staggering. Victoria had been planning this for years. The woman had married Samantha's father when he was already sick with cancer, knowing he wouldn't live long. She'd systematically isolated him from his friends, convinced him that Samantha was too busy with her career to care about family, and slowly positioned herself as his primary emotional support. But the most damning evidence came from Victoria's own phone records. Samantha discovered that her stepmother had been in contact with a document forger in Nevada, paying him $5,000 to create fake legal papers. She'd also hired a professional audio editor to manipulate the recordings. Victoria thought she was dealing with a grieving daughter who would be too emotional to fight back. She had no idea she was up against someone who caught financial criminals for a living. Samantha spent the next 2 weeks building an airtight case. She traced Victoria's payments to the forger, documented the audio manipulation, and even discovered that Victoria had been secretly photographing her father's financial documents during his illness. The breakthrough came when Samantha found Victoria's email correspondence with a lawyer in another state, someone who specialized in inheritance disputes. The emails revealed Victoria's entire plan, including her strategy to emotionally manipulate Samantha into accepting the forged documents. "She's been planning this since the day she married my father," Samantha realized, printing out the evidence. She married a dying man to steal his money. On the day of the second probate hearing, Samantha arrived with 3 boxes of evidence and a federal prosecutor. Victoria's confidence evaporated the moment she saw the prosecutor's badge. "Mrs. Rodriguez," the prosecutor said, addressing Victoria, "you're under arrest for inheritance fraud, document forgery, and wire fraud. The FBI has been investigating your activities for the past 2 weeks." Victoria's face went pale. "This is ridiculous. Samantha, tell them this is all a misunderstanding." Samantha stood up, her voice steady and cold. "The only misunderstanding here is yours, Victoria. You thought you were scamming a grieving daughter, but what you actually did was commit federal crimes against a federal agent who specializes in exactly the kind of fraud you've been perpetrating." The evidence was overwhelming. Victoria's phone records, email correspondence, payments to the forger, and the audio analysis all painted a clear picture of premeditated fraud. But Samantha had one more surprise. "Your Honor," Samantha said, addressing the judge, "I'd like to present additional evidence that Mrs. Rodriguez has done this before." Victoria's eyes widened in horror as Samantha revealed her investigation into Victoria's background. This wasn't Victoria's first marriage to a wealthy, sick man. She'd been married twice before, both times to men who died within 2 years of the wedding, both times inheriting substantial amounts of money. Victoria Martinez, also known as Victoria Stevens, also known as Victoria Chen, Samantha continued, "She's been running this scam for over a decade. My father was her fourth victim." The judge's expression hardened. "Mrs. Rodriguez, given the severity of these charges and your apparent history of similar crimes, I'm denying your inheritance claim and ordering a full investigation into your previous marriages." Victoria broke down completely. "Samantha, please, I'll give you everything back. I'll disappear. Just don't let them prosecute me." But Samantha felt no sympathy. "You preyed on my father when he was dying. You isolated him from his family. You made him believe I didn't care about him. You don't get to ask for mercy now." The trial lasted 3 months. Victoria was convicted on all charges and sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. But the real victory came when Samantha discovered that Victoria had been living off the money she'd stolen from her previous husbands. Working with federal investigators, Samantha helped recover over $800,000 that Victoria had stolen from other families. The money was returned to the victims' children, and Victoria's entire criminal enterprise was exposed. Samantha not only got her inheritance back, but also received a commendation from the FBI for her investigative work. She used part of her father's money to establish a foundation that helps families fight inheritance fraud. 6 months after Victoria's conviction, Samantha stood on the porch of her father's ranch, which she'd decided to keep as a family home. She'd found letters her father had written, but never sent, letters where he expressed his regret for marrying Victoria and his love for his daughter. "I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you from her, Dad," Samantha said, holding the letters. "But I made sure she'll never hurt another family." Victoria had thought she was clever, marrying sick men and stealing their money, but she'd made the mistake of targeting the wrong family. Samantha's father had raised her to be strong, intelligent, and principled. Those qualities had served her well in bringing down a serial inheritance fraudster. As the sun set over the Texas ranch, Samantha realized that her father's greatest gift wasn't the money he'd left her. It was the values he'd instilled in her, values that had helped her bring justice not just for herself, but for all of Victoria's victims. Victoria was serving 8 years in federal prison, her assets seized, her reputation destroyed. She'd spent decades building her criminal enterprise, and it had all come crashing down because she'd underestimated one grieving daughter who refused to be a victim.